Hello, and welcome to another episode of Todd Talks. When Todd talks, people listen, hopefully. Today, today is going to be very fun because we are talking about the death battle between Doctor Strange and Doctor Fate. A matchup that I honestly have requested for Death Battle to do. It's been one I thought would be a lot of fun, and we're finally getting it. And as you've hopefully have heard from the team, this is going to be one of the most insane death battles of all time, for reasons that I'll be getting to very, very soon. One thing I want to clear up before we get started: I've seen a lot of people posting on the like the forums and other sites about like how they compare to each other, like on a power level, and do not compare the Doctor Strange movie to like Doctor Strange Justice League cartoon, okay? Because both versions were very nerfed versions of the character. I mean, look at the Doctor Strange movie. It was more about dimensional magic than actual magic. Infinity War did a lot better than that. And as for the Justice League cartoon, he was brought in late via Unlimited, if I do recall. And no, that's not right. No, he was in the original series. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But they brought him in, and he was the Lord of Order, yes, but he was meant to be very nerfed compared to his classic form. Same with Doctor Strange. So keep that in mind. Remember, this is a composite of all versions of Doctor Fate and Doctor Strange. Okay? So let's get it started. Dr. Stephen Strange was a very well-renowned, very well-respected neurosurgeon and various other surgeons, depending on the continuity you are in. And he had one very huge flaw: his ego. He loved being respected. He loved being needed, but only if it interested him. So he would only take cases that he felt mattered. And this led him to being, one of the richest guys around because he was so sought after, doing the cases that no one else could do and yet would make him rich and famous. Until he got into a car crash and basically wrecked his hands. And if you don't have good hands, you can't be a surgeon. So he blew all his money trying to get fixed. And when that didn't work, he got desperate and went to Tibet, or I'm not going to the movie place. I told you, don't count the movie. He went to Tibet and met a man named the Ancient One, who was the world's sorcerer supreme. And though the Ancient One could have fixed Strange's hands, he chose not to. Instead, taught him sorcery. And depending on which continuity you believe, the Ancient One soon died. A new sorcerer supreme was needed, and Strange proved his worth, proved his mettle, proved his goodness, and became the next sorcerer supreme. Since then, he has been a constant presence in the Marvel Universe, whether he had a solo comic like he does now and in recent years, or has been a part of the Avengers, Defenders, which he was actually a founding member, and various other supergroups in the world. It cannot be stated how powerful Doctor Strange is. I mean, you could argue, quite right, I might add, that he is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, being in the Marvel Universe. His wealth of knowledge is vast, and the magic that he derives because of that is scary. And there was a comic once where he banished a Celestial, which is no small feat. The only thing was he needed a little bit of prep time. But hey, when you're the Sorcerer Supreme, you kind of make some spells. And that's just like one feat he did recently. Over the course of his life, he's done so many insane things that it's really kind of scary how he's not a bad guy. But yeah, and there were times when he was a bad guy. He had like this thing called the Black Magic Saga, not to be confused with my nickname, obviously. So yeah, he's done some pretty insane things. And when the heroes of the Marvel Universe need a magic guy, they go to Dr. Stephen Strange. And as the Sorcerer Supreme, he is literally the protector of the entire Earth from magical threats. And he's had to battle some pretty big bads to do so, including his biggest nemesis, Dormammu, a basically nigh omnipotent god from another dimension who naturally wants to try and take over the Earth. And he's beaten to a stalemate. He's beaten his vessels. He's trapped him in other dimensions. he's beaten him pretty bad, but that's just one bad guy he's been battled against. He's battled against the In-Betweener, which is a horrible name. He's trapped him in another dimension, and he's fought in other, I wouldn't say superior, pretty close to superior magical users, including one that was actually feared by the Ancient One, you know, the guy who taught Strange everything he knew. And so, yeah, he's done some pretty insane stuff. Now, if you saw the preview for Doctor Strange, you'll note that much like the Raven Twilight Sparkle battle, these two, Strange and Fate, both know a plethora of spells that would make it literally impossible to talk about in a good amount of time. And I don't have a lot of time today because I'm preparing for a convention this weekend. But just to, you know, go light, he can levitate, time travel, not via the time stone, create a lot of illusions. He's a master of hypnotism, which I find kind of disturbing. I'm not sure why. He can bind you with the bands of Sithrak. He can blast you like 6 ways from Sunday with the spells. The Book of Ashanti, which is one of his, you know, tried and true equipment items, knows just about every defensive spell in the book and is able to counter most spells in the book and outside the book. The Eye of Agamotto, which he wears around his neck, again does not have the time stone. It's a movie, people. They had to alter it for the movie. Stop thinking that that's the only. Never mind. So the Eye of Agamotto is actually arguably the most powerful artifact in one of the most powerful. I'm gonna be fair here. One of the most powerful artifacts in the Marvel universe, as it contains the energies and arguably the soul of Agamotto himself, who is the original Sorcerer Supreme. And if you're reading the recent Marvel comics, we have actually met. This amulet, for lack of a better term, allows him to channel Strange to channel not just the energies and wisdom of Agamotto, but energies all around him. It basically makes him a lot more powerful and gives him the energy to. There are 3 tiers of magic in the Marvel Universe, which I didn't know before this video. I found that pretty cool. And the Eye actually allows him to tap into all 3 different energies of magic. So again, Sorcerer Supreme. So, yeah, he's battled a lot of people, and he's done a lot of really interesting things. Now, if we're going to talk weaknesses, it's honestly kind of limited because especially if you look at the classic Doctor Strange, you know, like the early decades of his reign when, you know, Marvel Comics and DC Comics too are basically making all the characters like literal gods who could do anything they wanted. Yeah, he's done some pretty stupid stuff, like insanely stupid stuff. But yeah, and so he doesn't exactly get beat very often. That being said, he can be outsmarted, he can be tricked, and it's specifically stated that if he loses like the Eye of Agamotto, which is, you know, very much removable, yeah, or you know, certain other equipment like the Book of Ashanti or whatnot, he will have lesser powers, and he has been beaten before. I mean, this is a guy who just recently got tricked by Loki into thinking he wasn't the Sorcerer Supreme anymore, when he was. But, you know, that's how Loki rolls. And also, he does at times have a bit of an ego, which is something the movies definitely got right. He knows he's powerful, and he knows he has a lot of skills, and so sometimes that can get into his head, and he'll do things and say things that he probably shouldn't say, but he does anyway because he's Sorcerer Supreme. But either way you look at it, this is one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe, hero, villain, or otherwise. And between his numerous fights with Baron Mordo, he can actually travel super faster than light. And yes, I said super faster than light. Like, he is ridiculously fast. And yes, he has the Cloak of Levitation, which can protect him. That is accurate from the movie. It has a mind of its own and allows him to fly and all that. So, you know, he has, between his equipment, his natural magic use, and his enhanced magic use, like via the Eye of Agamotto and other spells, he is insanely powerful. So I look forward to seeing him in the death battle. Now, Dr. Fate, aka Kent Nelson. Yes, there have been other Dr. Fates, but as Ethel noted, the original Kent Nelson was going to be the host here, which is great because he is the original host of Dr. Fate and the one that most interpretations use. Now, Kent Nelson was with his father on an archaeological dig, and they just so happened to stumble upon a Lord of Order named Nabu. Yeah, it didn't really turn out well for Kent technically. His father died, and he became the host for Nabu via the Helmet of Fate. And this started a very long, very interesting tenure as Dr. Fate, to the extent that we're technically Kent Nelson is technically like 90 years old, even though he was only 12 when he was found by Nabu or when he found Nabu in that pyramid. But hey, who am I to judge? So yeah, already 90 years old. Nabu is technically 10 billion years old, and so that's an interesting combination. Now, as Dr. Fate, he is a Lord of Order, which is one of the most powerful beings in the DC universe. They're Lords of Order and then Lords of Chaos, and obviously as Lords of Order, their meant is to keep the balance in our world and our universe and make sure that not just magic, but evil does not reign supreme. And to do this, Nabu literally fused his soul with Kent Nelson to become the entity of Dr. Fate and give to him the magic and ability to deal with whatever threat comes their way. And in their tenure as Dr. Fate, and if we want to be fair, the other 10 years of Dr. Fate, they've done a pretty darn good job. And Fate is, without a doubt, one of the strongest characters in the DC universe for good reason. He has, as a magic user, he is able to do incredible stuff, including, and I'm sure this is going to sound familiar, energy blasts, time manipulation, matter manipulation, all sorts of magic spells, dimensional travel. Let's see. Oh yeah, there was one time he actually grew to the size of the planet, like our planet, and like held it together. Oh, and he did this in a weakened state. Yeah. So, and the helmet, yeah, the helmet's just stupid, but the helmet is actually like super faster than light. Does that sound familiar? It was deemed by a comic to have the velocity of a god. Comics. And Dr. Fate is also he's able transmutation, which is kind of scary when you think about it. Multiple types of summoning and banishments. He is able to actually call upon the powers of the past Dr. Fates and their knowledge, along with the knowledge and strength of Nabu, to do innumerous magical acts. Again, not unlike Doctor Strange. He has fought the Spectre, who is again one of the most powerful DC comics characters, and Nabu himself actually went toe to toe with Spectre to the extent that he actually let himself be killed so that the universe could be balanced. And the Spectre, you don't just let the Spectre kill you, because this is the spirit of vengeance. This is that guy. So yeah. But then when Kent Nelson went up against Spectre, he also did pretty well, and then he eventually was defeated, but it was a pretty big battle. And he's battled Ultraman, which is the evil version of Superman. He's battled actually Lords of Order and Chaos. He even trapped them in eternity to ensure that they wouldn't cause any more trouble. So yeah, he's actually turned against his masters technically, and his magical prowess is virtually insane, and he's done stuff that even I can't wrap my head around. Like like in the Battle with the Spectre, he was actually thrown through infinite dimensions and survived. And then he's actually sent villains through dimensions to make sure that they didn't survive. He's battled the Justice League. He actually, in one comic, a very, very old comic, but he actually took on Superman and Martian Manhunter at the same time and dodged them. These are super fast beings. Dodged them and then was able to reverse their mind control. Someone was mind controlling them, and he broke the spell so that they could, not fight him anymore. So he's done that. He's taken on, all sorts of magical beings like Wotan and Clarion, the Witch Boy, who's one of my favorite DC Comics characters. He's fought a lot, and some of his spells have protected the Earth multiple times over. Like in one of my favorite episodes of Young Justice, when Warworld attacked, Dr. Fate actually opened up an Ankh, you know, the one of the symbols of the dead from Egyptian lore. He opened up an Ankh and literally absorbed a massive attack from Warworld, which is a little gun of a weapon in this interpretation. So yeah, he had that much power just to open an Ankh basically the size of Earth and absorb most of the attack. And then he's also a pretty good hand-to-hand fighter. You know, because of the Helmet of Fate, Kent Nelson actually has enhanced strength and durability. Depending on how you interpret the lore, he's technically invulnerable to pain and cannot die. Technically. So yeah, he's pretty good. Now there is a weakness, and again, this is all going to come down to interpretation. There is one weakness that Dr. Fate has: the helmet. The helmet cannot be destroyed, or to be clear, it cannot be destroyed within the confines of normal magic and something else. It's been tried. It hasn't been successful. The helmet can be removed from Kent's head. If it does, he basically loses pretty much all of his magical power, his knowledge as Dr. Fate, and so on and so forth. The question is, can they? And I'll explain that in a bit. But you know, Dr. Fate is, you know, one of the preeminent, you know, DC Comics magical characters. If I was to label one person potentially stronger than him, it'd have to be Zatanna, and that's another story for another time. Who I also hope is in a death battle one day. Who would Zatanna go up against? It doesn't matter. But yeah, so Dr. Fate he's a Lord of Order. He's one of the best sorcerers on the planet. He is a doctor, much like Stephen Strange. He's a doctor of anthropology, actually, and you know, so on and so forth. But Dr. Fate is one you definitely don't want at your corner if you're having a magical fight. All right, so the question is, who wins here? These two, oh my gosh, like Ben Wizard said himself that this is one of the most insane death battles they've ever done, because this is magic. Okay, magic is incredibly complicated, and this is two different universes of magic. I mean, I told you how in like the Marvel universe there's 3 tiers of magic. It's basically the same thing in the DC universe, where there's like, you know, natural magic, item magic, universal magic, etc., etc. And you know, so I would define Dr. Fate as, you know, item mixed with natural, because he was blessed by Nabu. So there's that. But the question is, who wins here? It all comes down to interpretation, because like I said, if you remove the Helmet of Fate from Kent Nelson, he's not Dr. Fate anymore. Now, the catch here is twofold. One, can you remove the helmet? If it was as simple as knocking off the helmet, he would be, you know, the biggest target in the universe. And that's pretty lame. And if you remember Young Justice, which could be composited in here, you can't remove the helmet without Nabu's permission. Now, this doesn't happen in the comics, but it does happen in the show multiple times, and I think it happened maybe once in the comics. It just depends on, again, on interpretation. And if Nabu does not let you remove the helmet, you can't get rid of the power. And remember, when the helmet's on, these two souls are merged, so that connection could be quantified as not being able to remove the helmet. And even if he did, you know, Kent's not helpless. He can use magic, not unlike how Strange can use magic without the Eye of Agamotto or the Book of Vishanti. So yeah, it's all about interpretation. And then there's the fact that the helmet itself is controlled by Nabu. Nabu moved the helmet in such a way to actually escape the Big Bang. Yeah. So like I said, super faster than light. He has the velocity of a god. So let's just say potentially Strange somehow removes the helmet. Nabu could potentially, you know, snap out of whatever spell he's in and race back onto Kent's head and, you know, do what needs to be done. That being said, I don't know if that's how they're going to interpret it. Again, this is good. This is going to be, I'm saying this straight up. I do not mind if I am wrong in this death battle. These are the two of the most powerful magicians in all of history, forget comics or otherwise. This is pure magic. These guys are two of the greatest. And so I'm not going to be mad if I pick one and the other wins, because it all comes down to interpretation and what spells they know. So who am I going to pick? I'm going to have to go with Doctor Strange. Sorry, no, Dr. Fate. Sorry, I was thinking about something else. No, I'm going to pick Dr. Fate, and I'll give you 3 reasons why. Number 1, Nabu. Nabu is in the helmet. Nabu's soul is merged with Kent Nelson as when he becomes Doctor Strange. Nabu has 10 billion years of experience. Okay, 10 billion years of observation, magical knowledge, battle experience, and he's fought the Lords of Order and Chaos. Among other things, he fought the Spectre. He's done these things that Kent can barely surmise, and Kent's 90 years old himself, so he's been doing this for quite a while. And it doesn't matter. But yeah, he's old. He's experienced. He's old. He's more experienced without a doubt than Doctor Strange. Okay, and experience definitely matters in a magical battle. Number 2, while their powers are basically the same and they have resistances to each other. For example, Doctor Strange has the basic. The Book of Shanti is a defensive plethora of spells. It's literally meant as defensive magic to block other magic users. But Dr. Fate has the same thing with his Amulet of Anubis, which actually houses the souls of past Dr. Fates, and it is also a counter to magic. So while that balances, I completely forgot where I was going with this train of thought. I'm so sorry. Dang, I really did forget what I was going with. But what was it? I have no idea what I was talking about. I am so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. This rarely happens to me. Okay, it was magical spells, right? So because the magical spells are the same, you usually can call that out. But dang it, Fate. This is so hard when they're both doctors. Fate has done 2 things that to my findings, Strange has not done. Number 1, he has actually grown, as I mentioned earlier. Fate has grown to an immense size to, keep the Earth together. I don't think Strange has ever done that. And 2, and this one still boggles my mind. Fate actually tapped into the powers of creation. Okay, think about that. He literally had the power of creation inside him, and it is specifically said in the comic that when he drew upon the power of creation, the ripple effects of the power that he had within him was felt throughout the dimensions, like different dimensions. So he was that power that he literally shook dimensions. And yes, I know that Strange has had battles that has shattered dimensions, and Strange himself actually destroyed a dimension. But I just think that this is a little bit more than that. And so, I don't know. And again, it all comes down to interpretation. And I don't think, and then 3, if the only way to defeat Dr. Fate is to remove his helmet, I don't know if you can do that because of Young Justice and certain other aspects of it. So between his experience, his slightly better magic, slightly better magic, the power of the helmet and his other items, I think that Dr. Fate's going to pull this off. Now, if Strange pulls off the victory, I will not be mad. I will not be mad one little bit because, again, these are 2 incredibly powerful beings. But based on what I have found, my knowledge of these characters, which is not insufficient, I'm going to have to go with Dr. Fate. The Lord of Order will beat the Sorcerer Supreme. And so with that, I am ending this episode of Todd Talk. Who do you think is going to win between Dr. Fate and Doctor Strange? And why? Let me know in the comments below. And just one last note. I'm perfectly fine with this being a 2D death battle because there is no way that they would have been able to do this in 3D with the amount of time that they usually have for 3D death battles. So 2D is fine. So I thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I know you were listening, and I will see you around.